All right, having compared the contrasting themes of the agendas that India and Pakistan seem to be portraying at the United Nations General Assembly, let's also tell you what transpired during Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan's press conference on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly session. The news conference was announced via a United Nations press release, giving the impression that there would not be any bias against participating journalists. But look what happens when our correspondent Aditi Tyagi rose to ask Imran Khan a question.
For these criminals in third world to take the money out.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Last question.
Thank you.
वो अलाउड तो होता नहीं है.
We learnt about Imran Khan's press conference through UN's media release, which stated that his press conference would be held at 3 p.m. in UN headquarters. Imran Khan at the press conference was joined by Maliha Lodhi and Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi. He spoke for 50 minutes, but he deliberately chose not to take even a single question from the Indian journalist. As usual, he kept on ranting about spectre of genocide in Kashmir or a potential war between the two neighbors, but at no point he gave a chance to any Indian journalist to ask question. When he was about to conclude, I requested him to take at least a question from the Indian side, from the Indian press. He paused for a second and then he walked off. My question is, if this press conference was just supposed to be a facade, why send out a press release through United Nations media? They could have easily held the press conference at their hotel and they could have invited the local press and then Indian media would have stayed out. But because the press release has come from the UN, we thought as a media house it's our responsibility to raise questions which 135 crore Indians have, and we tried to take that question up in his presser, but Imran Khan deliberately chose not to answer our question. Along with video journalist Anand, Aditi Tyagi reporting for WION from New York.
The world leaders have gathered in New York for the 74th United Nations General Assembly session. And with the leaders has also come media from across the world to cover that crucial event. Our principal diplomatic correspondent, Siddhant Sibal, getting you a sneak peek and better insight into the atmosphere at the venue and how global media is covering the session this year.
Well, it's that time of the year when the world's media descends in this part of New York City, right in front of the United Nations headquarters. Media across the world comes to give wall-to-wall coverage, live coverage and flashes and everything that media has to offer to the world about what the leaders are speaking inside that building, which is the headquarters of the United Nations. World leaders from approximately more than 190 countries, sometimes being represented at the foreign ministers level also, come here and descend, and media is always in full force describing the events, and we inside of course have the chance to go and of course rub shoulders with the world leaders. In fact, WION team, when it was waiting for the big bilateral between the US President Donald Trump and the Prime Minister Narendra Modi, the US President just passed to the entire media contingent. So that is normal, and world leaders come here in this building and speak, and you can answer, you can throw questions at them, and sometimes they do answer, but sometimes they don't. But that is the part of working in this week in this building, which is considered as a global parliament when the United Nations General Assembly meets to talk about challenges, the various issues, and come out with solutions. With video journalist Mukesh Sankla, Siddhant Sibal for WION at the United Nations headquarters in New York.